Well, the first thing to say, I think, is that the Puritans broke into my life when I was still a young Christian. I became a believer at Oxford, and I was put in charge of a library that had been left to the university chapter. And in that library were uncut volumes of the works of John Owen, who by general consent, of course, is the top Puritan.
Yeah.
And I was interested simply, I suppose, because I'm that sort of person. I like to know about the past of anything that I'm interested in the present. And at that time, in the present, I was interested in, well, more than interested. I mean, I was committed as a disciple of Christ. I was a new disciple. I was trying to catch up for all those years during which I hadn't been a believer, and from that standpoint, it was time wasted. Mm-hmm. And I had heard that the Puritans were something rather special. So I cut the pages, the uncut pages of a volume of John Owen, and started reading. Now, I hadn't expected what happened. I was reading him on indwelling sin in believers and the mortification of sin in believers. I hadn't realized that I had a major problem at that point until Owen showed me that I did, showed me what it was, showed me how to understand myself, and showed me what the Lord would do for me and what I must do for him to deal with the sin that was still operating in my life. So, unexpectedly, John Owen, for a time, became my pastor. And I moved out from John Owen to various of his friends. Richard Baxter was another great Puritan whom I began to read and was thrilled by. And I read for the first time seriously Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, both parts. And, well, there were quite a number, actually, of other Puritans of almost equal stature, right, whom I read, because Owen, although actually he's difficult in style, Owen gave me a taste for a reality which now I think I'd describe in terms of the recognition of God, quite simply. The Puritans carried a tremendous sense of God with them, and Owen, with his awkward style, was able to communicate that sense of God. And it took me a little time to recognize what it was that was coming across. But in fact, during those months when I was doing my first exploration of the Puritans, I was also able from time to time to listen to the great Martin Lloyd-Jones preaching the gospel. And Martin Lloyd-Jones, more than any preacher whom I have ever sat under, brought God with him. That's the only way to say it. Brought God with him into the pulpit. And from being in worship that he was leading, I got to the point where I recognized the reality of God is what's impacting me from the Puritans.
Is that...
And that stays with me today.
Is that